Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be focusing on mobility and stretching for tight hips. It is something that I suffer with a lot, so I've learned a couple of really cool little movement patterns that help me get through my day and recover really well so I can come in and train as hard as I can in the gym and on the mat. I would not do this prior to a lifting session or a strength session because it can reduce that recoil effect of your muscles in your joints, which can increase your risk of injury. We don't want to do that. So separate this kind of stuff from your training. Do it afterwards or do it at a different time totally. But if you do this a couple of times a week, you'll start to feel your hips reopen again, and you'll also be able to find that you'll get stronger and deeper in each stretch with less pain. Make sure that you do release the hips between each stretch so that you aren't getting any residual pain down the legs. If you do have sciatica or any pain that comes through the back of the leg, probably avoid any movement where your hips are bent because that is going to increase that neural pathway down the back of the leg, and that's what we want to avoid when you have sciatica. So any sciatic pain, this probably isn't the movement pattern you want to go in next. So the first one's going to be hip flossing, and the hip flossing, it's going to be a little bit comfortable for some people and then it's going to be super uncomfortable for others, okay? So what you want to do is you want to put your feet down. You're going to be basically a little bit wider than hip distance. Come back with your hands so that you're in a comfortable position, and you're just going to come down, rotating the knees to one side, back to the middle, and rotating the knees to the other side. So what I want you to do is I want you to minimize the movement through the hips. So don't come across like this so that the hips stay in alignment. You want to actually keep the hips facing forward. Come this way a little bit. Facing forward a little bit so that when you come down, you're actually rotating at the hip joint there. Some people might have one hip that's tighter than the other, and some people might have both hips that just don't want to move. So your limited movement might be here. And then other people, if you're super hypermobile, this probably isn't the best exercise for you because your issue isn't mobility. It'll be strength in the lengthened position because you would have that easy movement through the joints, but so easy that if you haven't got your muscles switched on, you can probably dislocate or hyperextend and injure yourself even further. So we want to make sure that we're only working within our ability and our limitations. If you do find this is quite easy, you can actually come up into a squatted position and you can go the same movement pattern. So being in this squatted position, not many people can get down this way because it is quite a deep squat. But if you can, then you can just pop your hands behind your body and you're gonna lean in. But otherwise, this is more than enough. So taking your time and breathing through each section, really controlling it. So don't hop in and out of the movement pattern. You want to stay nice and tight through there. Okay, so that's 2 minutes. The second one, we are going to be doing half kneeling hip flexors. Okay, so we're going to come up into a half kneeling position here. So if you are tighten your left hip, then do your left hip stretch first. If you're tighten the right hip, then do your right hip stretch first. And what we want to do is we want to come into a tucked pelvis, and you're going to actually keep the hips in line. So when you tuck the pelvis, the front leg is going to, the hip on that side is going to want to raise, but you want to drive it down, tuck the pelvis, and then push forward. So the more important part of this movement pattern is that your hip is tucked. So if you come forward, if you can come here, then you're obviously not going to be holding that position very well because you're going to lose that hip placement. So we want to tuck the pelvis, make sure everything's in alignment, and you're going to come in and out. So you're just going to floss your way through, only coming to the ability of your body. Keeping that hip tuck. If you feel like you're losing it, come back to the middle, tuck it, then push forward again. And then you'll notice if you're breathing into it that you'll be able to actually get a little bit deeper each time. As long as you don't lose that pelvic tilt, you'll be fine to keep pushing that little bit more. And then you're gonna swap sides. So swap legs, tuck the pelvis, drop the front leg hip, and you're gonna come forward. So you'll notice for me, this is my tight hip, and I can't come as far forward just yet. But as I do a little bit more, I can push that little bit further forward. So you're working to challenge your own range without losing it. If you need to, come back into it. All the way, let's go 3 more. Beautiful. Okay, so that is your half kneeling hip flexor stretch. Then we've got the squat and reach. So this one can be a difficult one. With your squat and reach, you're going to come into the same position we did for the first exercise. So here, this is a really hard movement or position to be in, and a lot of people can't get it. So if you have a block or if you have a book or something, you can actually elevate your heels, and that will allow you to get a little bit deeper in that squat. But the goal here is to actually train your body to be able to be in this position. So I want you to come down as low as you can. If you need to elevate your heels, pause me, go grab something to elevate, books, block, anything, and then come down as low as you can, maintaining a flat back. So weight evenly distributed through the feet. Your knees are gonna be wide and your elbows are gonna push the knees out. Okay, then you're going to come up and rotate, back down. Up, rotate, back down. Good. If you do start to feel a tingling sensation through the legs or the hips, you can come out of it, shake your body out a little bit, but I want you to actually challenge yourself and try and push yourself to stay in this position for a little bit longer. Because even though you've got that discomfort there, it's actually really good for the body to be able to sit in this position. There's a reason why children can sit in this position quite comfortably. Okay, one more each side. Good. Okay, our last one, come on out of that stretch. Make sure that you do release the hips between each stretch so that you aren't getting any residual pain down the legs. All right, so this one's a stretch. You're gonna be just holding this position. It's called a frog hip stretch. So you wanna come into super wide knees, so a little bit wider than your mat if you can. And then you're going to come onto the hands and bring the feet in line with the knees. If you are on something hard like this, I'd probably grab like a blanket or a mat, something soft so that your knees don't break. And then you're gonna come back and just hold this position. So the goal here is to stretch in between your hips, so essentially your adductors or your inner thighs. And if you feel like this is quite easy, you can rest your head on the mat. Take deep breaths into this position. So you wanna keep your feet as wide as your knees. And if this is easy, you can widen your feet and your knees a little bit more. But just like the last one, you will start to feel a bit of a burn through the hips. Try to embrace it, try to sit through it, try to breathe. Don't come out of it straight away, but if you do start to get any pain, then come out of it, release the hips a little bit, and then come back in. We're almost there. 5 seconds. Beautiful. Now coming up onto your hands and creep your knees in one at a time. Take your time. And that is 10 minutes of hip mobility. So a couple of stretches that you hold and a couple that you work in and out of. I hope this helps. If you are liking what you are seeing, please like, subscribe, and send me any requests that you have. Have an amazing day.